Hey, welcome to today's session over here. So as usual, we'll get started. Okay, first thing first, disclaimer, of course, everything that we'll be covering in today's session solely based on my personal opinion, and obviously they do not directly translate to any form of like trade signals or advisory. Okay. Now, for those of you who are first time here, welcome. What we usually do is I'll run through the market. I like some of the opportunities, some of the events that you probably want to keep an eye on. And then of course, we'll do a little bit of a quick Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat box, okay? So with that said, let's take a look at what we have for this week, okay? Right now, of course, Monday, the market are usually quiet and slower. Going into tomorrow, 8:30 in the evening, we have the Canadian CPI data. That's definitely tradable in terms of like news trade, right? So for those of you who are into news trading, okay, if you have a strategy to trade the short-term volatility of such data, the Canadian CPI is definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. I would say the Canadian data is pretty straightforward, right? In fact, last week, together with some of our traders on Wednesday session, we managed to trade the CPI data on Canadian. We managed to trade the Canadian data on Wednesday. Okay. Is it Canadian? Let me just very quickly go back to last week and look at it. Oh, it's not Canadian. Sorry, it's the US CPI data, right? So it's basically also CPI, but last week we were trading the dollar. Tomorrow here we are trading the Canadian, right? So definitely very doable. Wednesday morning we have the RBNZ. Okay, RBNZ is something that I would advise against trading, so you probably do not want to trade this particular news. On Wednesday we also have the pound CPI data, so that's definitely tradable as well. Okay, most of the CPI data you can trade it, right? US, Canadian, the pound side of things, the UK CPI. You can definitely trade them. Okay, and then later part of the week we have multiple PMI data coming in. But of course, this PMI data I don't think is going to be crucial. They do provide some volatility, but I don't think it's going to be huge, right? So this week news side of things will be very much on Tuesday Canadian and Wednesday UK side. Okay. So with that said, let's jump into the charts over here. Let's start off with the dollar index. Okay, so dollar index for the week itself, I'm still looking at bearish bias. Okay, I'm looking at it from an angle where the market put in the first move down, did a little bit of a pullback, a mini impulse move last week. So if you can see a nice little corrective structure like that, you know, we have some confidence coming back to where the previous structure is. I'm expecting one more short, okay, potentially towards 103.80 zone. Okay, so dollar index here, we're looking at bearishness. We'll be looking at some of the major pairs potentially, you know, dollar weakness, so they are likely going to continue to the upside. Okay, for example, like euro dollar. Okay, I'm neutral now. Okay, depending on how the market is going to develop, maybe moving forward. But if we can see a little bit of a corrective structure here, short term, we may still get one more push. But I'm a bit cautious because right now we may have completed a bigger structure and the pullback may be deeper. Okay, so I'm simply just being a little bit more careful as of now. Okay, and just give it maybe another 1 or 2 days to see how the price is gonna react and develop before kind of commit to a particular direction. Okay, so that's on the euro dollar side. Pretty neutral. Pound dollar here, I'm bullish though. Okay, because pound dollar here, the price hasn't really complete the cycle here, right? In terms of three-wave structure. In terms of wave, Fibonacci hasn't been hit as well. So we're looking at this as a WXY. Okay, and of course, we have our first move here. So again, any kind of pullback correctively will present a buy trade opportunity to the outside. Okay, so pound dollar bullish bias. If we can get a decent pullback towards maybe around 1.2580, that will give us some opportunity to target the high at 1.2780. Okay, So that's on the pound dollar. Definitely an opportunity for the week. Keep an eye on that. Aussie, pretty much similar to the euro. Okay, depending on how the market is going to develop here, we may get a deeper pullback, or we may simply get a shallow corrective structure for more upside. So I'm just neutral, right? Simply because the market has completed the minimum requirement of a 3-wave, as well as the fit area here. So I'm just gonna be a little bit patient to see how the market develop, right? In terms of the major here, if I'm gonna look to buy them, okay, to the upside, then naturally the pound dollar seems to be a little bit more of a nicer setup, where I would have more confidence in compared to maybe the euro and the Aussie. Okay. Dollar Canadian, then we'll be looking at the opposite side, right? Because if the dollar is going to be continue weakening, then of course dollar Canadian here give us an opportunity to take it to the downside too. Okay, so this one here, I'm looking at opportunities to sell it this week. Okay, likely if I can extend this a bit. Okay, we are seeing some nice little confluence in terms of overall structure here as well. Okay, if you can get a corrective pullback towards this zone, which is where the 50% retracement is, we also have a nice trend line channel structure as a resistance. Okay, so if that's going to be the case, then we can expect one more pushback to retest the bottom channel, and basically that's the opportunity. Okay, so tomorrow we also have the Canadian data coming in, right? So you want to factor that news volatility as well, because if tomorrow the market decides to just break down like that, then obviously we not want to be selling it anymore, but we'll be able to then write on this perhaps from a news trade perspective. And once the market tag this area, there's a good opportunity then to start looking for a buy trade. Okay, so the dollar Canadian, depending on tomorrow's data and how price is going to develop off tomorrow data, we are probably going to need to adjust the overall directional bias a little bit. Okay, but as of today, this is likely going to be the forecast now. Okay, the primary view, and of course tomorrow definitely presents an opportunity to do news trade on the Canadian side. Okay, dollar yen, I'm short term bullish, right? We are looking at this as a perspective of a 3-wave pullback. Okay, so we have this move here, 1, 2, 3, and then we have the first wave, the second wave. The market seems to put in a small little impulsive move to the upside. If we can get a corrective pullback, then that will give us a buy trade opportunity with a target around 158.50. Now, is there an opportunity where this can go higher? Maybe, right? But I would say the first target is definitely here. Okay, so this one is another one to take note of. The only part that may conflict a little bit is the dollar index, right? Because if we're expecting the dollar index to come lower, then of course, we expect the dollar to weaken, right? But also we want to bear in mind that there is the yen factor in play. Okay, so if the yen weaken relatively more than the dollar, dollar yen can still hit higher. Okay, or we can also potentially see the dollar index maybe start to push higher from here, with this low being completed. Okay, so I'm not too concerned over in terms of like the alignment between the dollar index and the dollar yen. I'm just looking. Okay, so that's on the dollar yen. Okay, we'll be looking for opportunities to take the upside. Then we have gold. Okay, so gold over here seems to have a nice decent reaction right now. Okay, off the 100% over here. So again, you can see we're expecting some kind of a pullback every time the market completes a 3-wave cycle, right? You do not want to rush things. Okay. So gold here, maybe this week may not give us a direct opportunity to get involved in trades, but this week here may start to develop into something that give us a little bit more clarity going forward, right? And that means that maybe opportunities to look for buy maybe next week if we can get this 3-wave structure. All right, so that's on gold, right? You want to potentially wait for the pullback. If you can get that, then we have a nice little buy. Crude oil, I'm waiting for the price to give us some kind of a confirmation break. Okay, so we have this tree wave here. We have a little bit of a double bottom. This is the neckline. The market is currently testing that. But of course, ideally, we want the price to break out of the neckline with momentum, give us some kind of a pullback, then we'll be looking for buy trade to the upside. Okay, so I'm monitoring this as well. Maybe we may get something, maybe second half of the week, for crude oil to be looking for a buy trade. Okay, so we'll see how things develop. Then that may or may not give us something, right? Depending on price development. S&P over here, I'm looking at it from a 5-wave structure perspective. Okay, so from this low here, this is a very strong momentum push. So that directly gave me an idea of this may be a wave 3. Okay, so if that's going to be wave 3, then of course we have wave 1, wave 2 here as a running flat, or it can be even as a leading diagonal, and then this is wave 2, so wave 1 ends here. To me, it doesn't really matter right now because that's already in the past. We're looking at potentially wave 3 completing soon. Okay, and once that happens, then we'll start to wait for a corrective pullback to have wave 4. We'll be looking for buy opportunities on the S&P. Okay, so overall, US equities in terms of S&P and the NASDAQ will be bullish. Okay, I'll be looking at upside in general. The yen pairs in relation to the pound and the Aussie, I would say just neutral. There's really no clear pattern as of these two pair. I'm just going to leave it aside and not touch them for now. Pound Australia, right now I'm looking at this possibility. Okay, there are mainly two scenarios here that I'm looking at, right? I think the first scenario would likely be the case looking at how things are developing. Okay, this would likely turn out to be some kind of a simple corrective pullback. Okay, that looks something like that. You can see over here, right? If you can get a corrective pullback towards this zone, then we can get one more sell. Okay, now why I have two potential scenarios, because this looks initially like a crawl. Okay, but the market didn't continue to drop correctively, right? It starts to do a little bit of a U bounce here, but it's also not a very strong momentum reversal, right? So what I'm looking at is potentially this move here, and this starts to do a little bit of a corrective structure for one more push, and then we'll look for upside. Okay, so if this continues to develop correctively, right, if this comes down a little bit, goes up a little bit, then that would naturally be a sell trade that we can look to capitalize within the week. Okay, so let me just very quickly do a bit of an adjustment. Yeah, I would say probably this would need to give it a bit more time, right? But let me just clean up a little bit. Okay, and probably we're gonna see something like that, and then one drop. Okay, yeah, so that's something to know, right? I mean, right now it's a little bit too early to measure that tree wave, but what I'm looking at is this can be a 1, 2, 3 to complete one set, right? And then we'll get a deep retracement here, and then another inner 1, 2, 3 to complete the third set, and then that will give us a nice up, right? So somewhere perhaps second half of the week, right? Pound Australia may give us something that we can look into. Okay. Euro CAD here, I'm neutral as well because the market is essentially now testing the fit area. Okay, we also have a completed 1, 2, 3. So right now we're expecting some kind of a deeper pullback, right? So I'm just patiently waiting for it, right? So this is kind of similar to like Euro dollar and the Aussie dollar. Just want to wait out a little bit. Okay, Buba asks, do you have impulse move as what we expect in gold? Yeah, I mean right now it's coming down a little bit impulsive, right? So I'm expecting this to start to do that pullback, right? Because it completed that 3 wave with some fib area. So there's a high probability this will actually come back down. Potentially retest the 50% mark, right? Whether you want to sell this retracement depending on your horizon. Okay, if you're looking at short term, and you can look at a smaller time frame, if you can get a pullback, then obviously you can look to sell this. But if you're more of a 4-hour swing trader, then you just want to wait for the pullback to complete and get involved in the buy. Okay, so depending on your time horizon. BTC, I'm looking to buy this if we can get a decent corrective pullback, right? Okay, so very straightforward. The market seems to have broken this trend line, pretty impulsive in nature. We have this low, 1 through, we're looking at something like that. Maybe then after that a bigger corrective, then the upside, right? So for me, okay, I'm looking at a pullback here. If you can get that, definitely a buy trade opportunity. All right, so those are the few things to note for the week. Okay. Good. So generally, there are a few things that you can definitely pay attention to. Okay. There are some requests on certain pairs here. Okay, let's take a look at them. Aussie Canadian, as of now, I would say you would probably want to wait and see if you can get this neckline broken with impulsive move. Okay, if you can, then might want to start looking for short-term downside, right? Because then this one here, you can look out for the 50% fit area. Okay, so this potentially may have completed this entire leg structure, right? So if you look at this, one of the clearest way to put the tree wave, I will put it something like that. Okay, with a potential mini double top established. So if you can get a nice impulsive break followed by pullback, then that gives you a short-term sell opportunity on Australia Canadian. Okay, Kiwi dollar, probably gonna be very similar to the Aussie, right? Okay, yeah, I would take it as, you really want to see how the market is going to develop here. Okay, if this is going to come down corrective, then of course you can still look for one more push up short term. But if let's say this starts to turn into a crawl, then you want to look and anticipate for a deeper pullback before the continuation. Okay, it's not the clearest structure now, and of course we're also combining it with the confidence factor that it may have completed a larger structure wave. So we are expecting some kind of a deeper pullback. Okay, so Kiwi dollar, quite similar to Aussie dollar, may not be the clearest for now. Okay, Euro New Zealand pretty much completed a 3-wave cycle. Okay, so you want to be a little bit cautious. This 3-wave here may not have completed the fit. Okay, but in terms of structure, it's pretty clear, right? We kind of completed a obvious 3-wave move. Okay, so whenever I see something like that, can you take a sell if we have a correction here? Yes, you can still take it, but this is definitely a short-term trade. Okay, now bear in mind the market doesn't necessarily always test the fit. Okay, sometimes it can just complete a structure like that and it starts to do a deeper correction before the continuation. Okay, so overall, whenever you see an obvious 3-wave like this and the market starts to give us some kind of a rejection or bounce, just be a little bit careful. Alright, so that's my take on the Euro New Zealand. Okay, yeah, so generally that's about it from my side. Okay, yeah, I mean there are some index here that you can look into. I mentioned the S&P. German DAX, potentially something might build up as well. Okay, so depending on how you look at this, whether this is gonna be just a 3-wave or you're expecting a wave 3 here, so this can be some kind of a corrective structure for push up, depending on how market develop, right? But I think overall direction is definitely bullish. Okay, A50 here as well. Okay, it's going to be bullish overall. Any corrective pullback can be seen as a buy. Hang Seng, same thing here. You don't want to buy now, right? Because the market's at the peak. But I would say any kind of a corrective pullback definitely will give you some kind of buy opportunity. Okay, so yeah, generally those global indices, I think overall we are bullish. Just wait for the pullback. Okay. same thing here. I think overall, every market right now seems to be bullish. I mean, in terms of labeling, maybe we need to readjust that. Yeah, but you can see, right? The momentum is definitely stronger to the upside. Okay, so I think overall index, okay, even this year. Okay, wave 3 seems to be pretty extended as of now. We managed to clear off that with momentum. So definitely we are seeing this as a 1, 2, 3. Very extended, 4 and 5, right? So everything is bullish, right? I think in terms of like index, you probably just want to focus on the upside and then wait for some kind of pullback to get involved in it. Alright? Yeah, so generally that's the update for me for the week. There are definitely some things that you want to keep an eye on. Okay, as I mentioned throughout the session just now. Okay, and hopefully today's session also give you an overview of the week, where are some of the opportunities available, the general direction on some of these instruments over here that you can focus for the week itself. Right. So that's all for me for today's session. Maybe just very quickly, to highlight, I'm pretty sure some of you are already aware of this, but I do have I'm currently running a free trial, okay, to my daily trading dose premium analysis. Okay, for those of you who are keen, basically you can get the link in the YouTube description below. Okay, you click that link, you'll be directed to this page over here. You can start your 7-day free trial. Inside, what you'll be getting is a Elliott wave training, okay, which you get it for free anyway, inside the trial. And for the next 7 days, I'll be sending you a daily market analysis report, covering the direction, right, the analysis on all these pairs over here, for the next 7 days. Okay. So for those of you who are keen, the link is in the description below. You can click on the link and then you'll be directed to this page over here. Right, so that's all for me. All the best for this week trading. And with that, right, we'll end off today's session and we'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, so see you guys. Bye-bye.